Welcome to TNL Live. Today we have Kathy Baldock as our guest from Reno, Nevada in the USA. Yay, we're going to do that again in a moment. She's an independent historian, author, and founder of Canyonwalker Connections. And for over 2 decades, she's been doing the often uncomfortable work of building bridges between the church and the LGBT community. Kathy is also one of the main researchers featured in the award-winning documentary 1946, The Mistranslation That Shifted Culture. Her first book is Walking the Bridgeless Canyon, and the links are below in the description. Please don't forget to have a look at that afterwards, and you can go onto her website and help support her by purchasing her books. And also, please have a look at any other ways that you can support. She has a new book out. It is Forging a Sacred Weapon and How a 1946 Mistranslation Shifted Culture. And the book traces one single word, homosexuals, and how it landed in 1 Corinthians 6:9 for the very first time in 1946, which I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about. So just before we do, let's get into this.
Nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals shall inherit the kingdom of God.
God's given us His Word, and to go against that's wrong.
1946 is the first time in any language, in any translation, the word homosexual ends up in the Bible, right?
I found that incredibly hard to believe.
Who made this decision? Why did they make this decision? How did they make this decision?
Here is the famous 1946 RSV New Testament.
I found that they had left their archives at Yale University.
I think we went through 60,000 documents. So I'm reading this for the first time.
Oh, this is exactly what we are looking for.
This is it. I was wrong, or I think I'm wrong, about what the Bible says. What is in the Bible is a behavior. It's a behavior that heterosexual people can do.
Come on.
Religion and politics get together.
There is a religious war going on in this country. It is a cultural war, but this war is for the soul of America.
Hey, sweetie. What you're doing is contrary to the Word of God.
The authority of the Bible is at stake.
How do we undo a lie that is so ingrained in our culture?
This is live streaming and broadcasting at its best.
I tell you, Kathy, you can't
Welcome
believe
to
it.
Africa,
It's like
Kathy.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. We're missing you. Okay, hold on.
you-
We want to, without further ado. First of all, Kathy, thank you for your patience, and all the beautiful saints out there. Thank you for your patience. We will endure. We will endure. We will do whatever it takes to get this message out, and
we shall not be stopped.
we shall not be stopped.
Forward.
So if you don't know who Kathy Baldock is right now, and you haven't seen a little bit more of the intro, we want to welcome you officially to the podcast, Kathy. And it is such a blessing and an honor to have you with us.
Yay.
I just love the African culture and everything about it, Jeff. So thank you, Kathy, for persevering. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to every single person. If you see someone dropped off, maybe just send them, hey, we back.
They're all still on by the looks of it. Kathy has a new book, and I know that she's probably going to share a lot about this book, Forging a Sacred Weapon, and this is how in 1946 the mistranslation shifted culture. So there it is, and don't forget, come and support her. Do whatever you can to make a donation. If you can't buy the book, if you're not a reader, start reading, and if you don't want to buy the book, make sure you give a donation, and all of that is on her website, which you can go to. But this is really, really an important book, and I know that both your works, from what I understand, that your first book, Walking the Bridgeless Canyon, which was written, I think, in 2014 or published, it sort of flows into your next work, which is forging a sacred weapon. And so I think without any more delays, excuse the pun, Kathy, from what I've read, you didn't set out to be one of the leading voices of faith in the LGBT community. You started your career as a graduate in a university college of engineering, I believe. But in 2001, your path changed direction. And for people meeting you here for the first time, take us back to where it all started, to what moved your heart toward the LGBT community, and what made you say, I can no longer be silent about this. What was that conversation that you had, or that relationship that cracked something open in you in how you saw the LGBT community and the church? We've lost you. Oh, okay, there we go. You're back.
I wish I could say it was overnight or it was short, but it wasn't. I met Neto. I was going through a divorce. I call him my husband. He just didn't want to be married anymore. And we were at, an evangelical church, a charismatic evangelical church. And I homeschooled the kids, and we shared the job, and he just decided he didn't want to be married. And so that was a challenge to me, because I had always been so proud of the fact that, we had 2 kids with the same last name. We had a business together. We'd lived in the same house for years. Everything was just so stable until he just didn't want to do it anymore. And so I tried by doing the right things, praying for him and hoping he'd come back, and none of it was working. He just wanted out. So we had a successful retail business, and he didn't want our the tenuous tone in our marriage to spill over to the business. So he forbade me to speak to anybody about what was going on, and I had to just be silent about it. And so the way I dealt with that silence was I just started hiking every day, so that I could go out on the trails and talk to God about it and pray and cry. And it was out on those trails that I kept seeing the same woman. And I thought, she hikes about the same pace that I do. And it was one particular Saturday morning, and he had just been yelling and screaming at me. And the whole thing, it ended up that he was having an affair already. And so all of his anger was coming out on me. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. And so I just started on that hiking trail. I got to the bottom of the trail one day, and I just didn't want to go home. And I'd seen Neto several times. And so I asked her, I said, I've seen you hiking here a lot. Do you mind if I hike with you for a while? And not only did I enjoy hiking with her, but it was a relief, because she wasn't in my friend circle at church, because I couldn't tell anybody at church, because you might as well stand on the front stage and announce it. I mean, prayer circles are not places of confidence, unfortunately. and so I became friends with this person completely unlike me, a Native American, a brown-skinned Native American with a Hispanic last name that was an atheist. And I suspected after the first hike with her, because the language she was using, she wasn't using husband or spouse or any of those words. She said the word partner, I think, a couple of times, and I thought, she might be a lesbian. And then I remember sharing with my girlfriends. I had the same girlfriends that I had gone to breakfast with for over a decade every Friday morning. And I remember sharing with them, and they said, well, are you going to talk to her? If she's a lesbian, are you going to talk to her about Jesus? You got to talk to her about Jesus. And I thought, why do I want her to come into this club of mine when it's not that the club was failing me, but the whole system was failing me at the time. It was just failing. My husband was just it just the Christian picture of a perfect marriage wasn't working. So it was just hard to talk about, come join this great club that I'm in. It wasn't working. So rather than telling her that she needed to change, I just became friends with her.
Sure.
And in becoming friends with her, I got to meet, well, it was a year before she really let me meet her friends because she didn't want me to know that she was a lesbian.
Oh, man.
Sure.
And so at the same time, I started taking an Italian class for the same reason. I wanted to keep my mind busy. I didn't want to commit adultery like my husband had. And so I kept my body busy and my mind busy. And in the Italian class, I was paired up with the only gay man in the class. So all of a sudden in my evangelical homeschooling Republican world, drops a gay woman and a gay man, and I enjoy their company, and I got to know them as people, and that made me challenge what I had been told. I had been told that gay people are rebelling against God, that they make a choice about their sexual, we would have said preferences probably, and we wouldn't have said orientation. And and I was also told that these relationships were based on lust and not love. But that's not what I saw. And so it challenged me on a civil level, because I still believed what I was being told by pastors, what the Bible says, but I thought, that doesn't mean I have to be nasty. So I tried just to be kind and loving, but I never challenged my theology.
Yeah.
And it took almost 5 years to challenge my theology because there was really nothing out there. This was 2000. And although we say there are books, that start talking about the gay perspective on verses, they weren't known or available in the heterosexual world. I mean, Boswell was out there.
Yeah.
Ollencott was out there, Troy Perry, those things were out there, but they wouldn't have made it into my world. And if they did, I probably wouldn't have paid attention anyway because they were gay.
Yes.
Why would I listen to a gay writer about their own life? Well, that doesn't make sense.
It's off the devil, Kathy.
But it's still the same way. It's still the same way. I mean, people, when they're handed either of my books and they're not on the affirming side, one of the questions that's most asked is she a lesbian? Is she gay?
Sure.
And, they're so ready that if I'm gay, they're not going to read what I wrote.
Sure.
I mean, it's bad enough that I'm a woman, but
yeah.
So it was just relationship, but it took me 5 years because I thought I could play, Switzerland. I thought I could be nice to the gay people, try to tell my Christian friends to be nice to the gay people. I had these parties where women were in my house once a month, and I would mix up my gay friends and my lesbian friends and just see what happened. But I still didn't think that the Bible would have affirmed their relationships. I was still kind of in the position that if they want to get married, let them have a civil union. But I hadn't challenged the Bible, and I didn't do that. Although I met Neto and Tom in 2001, I didn't challenge what the Bible said until 2007.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I didn't think there was anything there to challenge. I just didn't think there was anything in the Bible that would have supported gay people going to heaven, being part of the kingdom. It was so clear to me that wasn't possible. I didn't know why, but I had been told it. So I didn't bother challenging it until I went to the GCN conference. I got curious. When I saw the ad for the Gay Christian Network conference, so here I am 6 years into this journey with gay people, and I see these words gay Christian next to each other on the front page of the New York Times, and I had never envisioned it. And so I went to the GCN website and I saw that they were having a conference. So I did something very crazy and I went to the conference. That's crazy. So I went to this conference, and I was the first straight person that ever went to these conferences. And it was the first night in worship. It took one worship session to watch LGBTQ people in worship and knowing that they're worshiping the same spirit I am. The same spirit is in the room. And that confused me. And I knew it was a problem. I had no idea. But for years, I think my only position, my role in the whole conversation was kind of like a kind mother, a person that just said, I love you. So like what a lot of the free mom hug people are doing now, I was doing that sort of thing in, 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11. And I didn't get curious about the academics of it until probably 2011. So I'd been hanging out in the gay community for a good 10 years, but my impression was that the gay community didn't want anything to do with the church. So what work was there to do?
Yeah.
There was nothing to do. Just be my point was just to be nice. That was it. Just to do relationships and be nice, because if you didn't want to be in the club, why try to figure out how to get you in it, None of it made sense. So I didn't do any academics until Neto, I saw her pain one day when she said that, and it's in the movie, 1946, when she said that, that she had always had this problem. She grew up on a pueblo, which are kind of like reservations, but they're pueblos, they're towns along the Rio Grande River in New Mexico. And when she was growing up on the pueblo, they had Catholic priests there at the school she went to. And she was told as a young girl that she was I'm just going to say it, she was a stupid, dirty Indian. That's what she thought people of God believed about her, because that's what the priests were telling her. So she had nothing to do with God. And one of the first significant gifts she ever gave me was this beautiful turquoise cross that she had been given, I think at communion, and it meant nothing to her. So she gave me this beautiful cross. And so there was nothing in her that said, if God knew she was gay, God would want her. So she had always felt this inferiority, although she rose. She got 2 masters. She rose academically, but that little girl inside of her was told by priests that she was nothing. So, so one day we were just talking, and she said, Kathy, I'm not comfortable going to the places you go to. You're comfortable going anywhere, but I can't go where you go. She said, because I'm a woman of color. I'm a Native American. I'm a lesbian, and I don't feel safe when men are around. And then she said it. She said, and not even God loves me. Wow. That was the sentence.
Wow.
That was it. And I just thought, it took her, maybe she said it before, but it took me 5 years to hear it. Sure. When she said that, I came home. And I sat on my back deck, and I said out loud, I mean, it just hurt. I thought, I don't love perfectly.
Yeah.
And God loves perfectly. And if I think she's wonderful and I love her, how could God not love her? It was just a very simple thought. It was so simple, because I can think, obviously, if you read my books, I can think really big and complex thoughts. But this one was very simple. This was, I don't understand how you cannot love my friend Neto, God, if you are perfect love. It doesn't make sense to me. And that is what made me start digging into the Bible for myself. That was it. It was a simple, simple thought about God loving my friend.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, Kathy, and then obviously it was almost like that, I had this phrase, aha moment, but just like almost like a still small voice to go, I can't stop here. It can't just be, a realization of the love that God has for us that is far greater, right, than our love for one another. What was the next step if we look at your prolific career over the last decades, you went deep. You did the research like probably only an engineer could, right? You asked the critical questions. You mapped out the path. You did the digging. You did the searching. Well, how did that process start after that initial realization? This is wrong. This is not right. How can a friend of mine say that?
Then I had to figure out what the Bible actually said. So that was in the fall. And then we had a really snowy day here. I live in the mountains. I live over a mile high in the Sierra Nevada. Lake Tahoe is beautiful, right up there. Sure. So I live really high. It snows 20 to 25 feet a year here. I get a lot of snow. And there was a week where we were going to get a lot of snow, and the business I was selling printers. And after my husband and I separated, he took the business and I went and did sales. And the boss said, it looks like this is just a good week to take off because there's so much snow. People aren't in their offices. So we're just going to close down. And I think it was the week between Christmas and New Year's. And so I thought, well, what a great opportunity. So I took out a folding table and I moved it into the living room, and I took out all, at the time. So we're talking about, 2008, maybe 2007, 2008. So not a lot of stuff online. And I took out all the concordances that I had and the many Bibles that I had and a computer so I could read some history. And I tried to figure out these verses. For the first time, I actually went and read the verses in the context of the Bible and tried to read what was around them, like when was this written, trying to figure out who this was written to. And each day I took one of the clobber verses. And then at the end of the day, because I still couldn't get out of, so much out of my neighborhood. It sounds like a story from the 1880s, and so then I went, except that I had computers, and then I would just put on my cross country skis and ski through the neighborhood, thinking about what I had learned that day. And every day I ended up crying because I kept thinking, what people are saying this says in the Bible, it doesn't say. Wow. I can't see that it says this.
Amen. Yeah.
So I think this is wrong. So then I thought the next step was, I've got to tell my straight friends that this is wrong. And how am I going to communicate that? And I thought, well, I'll write a book, but the book will be written. So the first book, Walking the Bridges Canyon, but the book will be written for straight people for all the objections I hear.
Sure.
Sure. And that's why in that book, I think one of the best chapters in that book is the chapter on AIDS. Where AIDS actually came from. And so I just took each objection that I heard straight people say and try to address it. And that's why at the end of the book, there's all those, that first book is different than this one. It's got more stories in it. People that were gay and in leadership, people that are allies, people that wanted to get married because we didn't get marriage equality till 2015. So as I was doing that, people that were straight, people that were mixed orientation marriages, I did these chapters to reflect people. And so that book was, I only kind of went back 150 years. I went back a tiny further when I did the verses, but I was really only concentrating on the last 150 years, and I still like the book. I think
only the last 150 years.
but this book goes back 3200 BC, the new one, because This book is totally different. So if that book, I think it's a great, and I hear all the time that it's the book that causes people to come out, that causes parents to figure this out. But I would say that's like a college level 102 course.
Kathy,
and this new one is like a 401, 402.
Wow.
They're just different books.
Sure. Kathy, I know that you're probably going to elaborate a lot more, and please just feel free to share, as you are led. But so you have such a unique style in the way that you assimilate research, information, revelation, if we can call it that, I think. But in the way that you teach, because you use these timelines, just when you mentioned it a bit earlier about the differences between, this going back 150 years and the other one going back, just if you can maybe just share with our audience a little bit about that, just, the premise that you use, because you use timelines to explain a lot of things and specific intersections of history that help us understand how we got where we are now. And I'm sure you're going to help us try and get there in as, I realize this is normally sort of a 6 to 8 hour course that you have, that you literally teach on. So that's why I encourage people to go and get your book, to go and look at some of the resources that you have. And we've also got some links we will share afterwards with our people. And the links on the description. But please share with us just a little bit, if you can, and take us through just how whatever you can in this time period that we have, in terms of your teaching, in terms of...
So one problem I see with the way people try to engage the verses is they take their understanding, today's understanding, everything they know about, everything they assume they know about sexual orientation or the different ways they would express that.
Yeah.
Some people would still say preference.
Yeah.
and so they take what they know and they apply it to Paul, but also even more crazy to the writers of Leviticus. And they assume that because Paul was a man of God, he knew everything God knew.
Oh.
But he was a man of his time.
Exactly.
He was just a man living in his time.
Yes.
And so they forget that there's this huge expanse of time of 2,000 years where we have learned very slowly about procreation and sex. And even, we didn't even know until the 1880s that a woman was contributing an egg to this process.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, come on. I love that. I love that.
Ridiculous.
People don't, we were inverted males, right? we were, that was the premise, yeah.
Flawed, not just inverted, but flawed, like not properly developed in the womb.
Yeah.
Which is all interesting. But anyway. And so I was going down, I had an association with a church that's no longer there, but in the circles we travel in, you may have come across Maria Caruana, who had, in San Francisco, she had Freedom in Christ Church. And one of her congregants kind of spotted me at the first GCN conference. His name is Ed Ness. And I don't know what he saw in me, but he said he saw the potential of an ally. I guess I was just curious.
Sure.
I showed up. That was one thing. I showed up.
Mm.
And
sometimes
so he started inviting
right?
me. So he started inviting me down to events down at Freedom in Christ Church in San Francisco. It's about a 4-hour drive from Reno. And I would go down for their Thanksgiving celebrations or special celebrations. I went down a couple of years and rode on their float. We were a choir in the Pride Parade. So they really included me, and they let me ask my stupid questions, and they just loved me. And then when I started figuring this whole verse thing out and I wanted to talk about it, I was out hiking, as I am every day. But
wow.
But that's where That's where I get a lot of clear thoughts,
Yeah.
is when I'm hiking. And I was thinking, how do I communicate this? How do I communicate what's going on in my head? Like, I see all this stuff in my head, and it's almost like I see like fire hoses. One year I got to go, and I don't know how this opportunity arose, but I was going to I think the conference was called Netroots Conference, and some friends of mine from Alaska signed me up for it, and it was the early days of people that were online, and we would have never called them influencers at the time. These are all new terms, but I went with these people from Alaska, and they offered this um, special opportunity the day before to go through like this 6-hour fireman's training. And so I signed up right away. And so we used the jaws of life to cut someone out of a car.
Sure.
We went into a burning building. We climbed a ladder. And what they were trying to show was they were trying to show people that were writing and had a voice how difficult it was to be a fireman, so that when our towns, thought about funding fire departments, we would be the voice and say, you have no idea how difficult this job is, because we had tried it for a day. And so anyway, I tried this. And one of the things they had us do was hold on to a fire hose when they turned the fire hose on. And the fire hoses were all laid out in this parking lot. And so we each got this fire hose, and it was this Leviathan. I mean, this thing turned on, and you had to hold on to it so tightly. But this thing, it kicked off and it hit the other fire hoses. And that's when it dawned on me. That's what it feels like in my head. So these fire hoses are coming out, and sometimes I'm dealing with what's going on in the culture, and it's coming out so strong in the culture that it kicks off into the next thing, into the medical fire hose that's coming out. And then those two might bang into how the religious people are seeing it. But all of these things are happening at the same time. And they're kind of banging into each other and impacting each other. And everybody was looking at this like it was just Bible.
Yeah.
Bible and what we thought about the Bible. And they weren't thinking about societal changes, scientific changes, medical changes, impact of military, impact of mental health professionals, impact of men and women's roles, impact of the legislature. And I just started seeing all of these things interacting that told the bigger story. And so I thought, how do I communicate that, though? How do you take what's all this, like this beautiful chaos in your head, and communicate it to people? Because you can't say, oh, and then at the same time, it's just too confusing. So I was hiking, and I know the trail I was on, and I thought, I wonder if I just kind of did this on paper, and I created these different lines on paper, and one line is like the culture, and one line is scientific knowledge, and one line is what's going on with the Bible. I wonder if I can make this work. I wonder if I can jump between lines, like I see the jumping going on in my head, and communicate this over time. And so I came home from that hike, and I had some rolls of paper, because I am a good homeschooling mom. So I had rolls of paper. And I mean, the kids were grown, but I still had paper and markers and, all the things. And I thought, I think I can draw this. So I was leaving that afternoon to teach the next day, but I rolled it out on my floor, and I thought, and took a ruler out and thought, I'm going to make these 3 pieces of paper the same length, and I'm going to try to explain this is what's going on in our terms of what we understand scientifically. This is what's going on in the culture, and this is what's going on in the Bible. And I made it kind of to scale. So this huge room, I had a piece of paper like way back at the edge of this fellowship hall and said, this is when the book of Leviticus starts. And here we are, wrap around the room twice, and here we are today. And I realized that people could connect visually this time gap if I visually showed them the time gap. And the first time I taught it, I watched people's eyes pop open like, we get it. And they were gay people, for the most part, LGBTQ people. And then I thought, oh, I may have landed on something here. And then I just kept refining it over the years because that's how I saw it. And rather than having to say, oh, remember back here when I said this, it was all right up on the wall.
Kathy,
so that I can walk back and forth and show people, like, so for now, I can go through this whole time. So now I do 3 separate timelines, and I do 150,000 years ago to today. And so today is like this big, right? On a 20-foot timeline. And then the next timeline under it, I take from 600 BC to today. And today is, the last 100 years. On that one will be a little rectangle like this. And then the bottom timeline is the final rectangle from like 1840 on. And so people can see relationally what is known over time. And to see how late in this game that it takes for a human being to say, I wonder why people seem to do sex differently than male, female, procreative sex. And that takes until the middle of the 1840s.
Whoa.
But by the time you get there, you realize how much had to happen for a person to ask that simple question. So it becomes very apparent to people that Paul could have never asked a question like that.
Come on.
It wasn't possible for Paul to have those thoughts. And then I realized that this is the way I need to communicate. This is what works. So in the next book comes out of the letters, which we'll talk about. But when I created this book, which is very fat, it's very fat. It's 564 pages. It's well indexed, and it's even got a scripture index in it so that I can be all that amongst the religious community.
Come on.
But this book is set up along a timeline too. I do the timeline. It's not strictly a timeline, but it's pockets of years. You will know anytime you open this book where in time you are, because I am so convinced that it is scripture and history in context.
Sure, come on.
Completely in context that tells people what is known. So you can say to me, I say this is how I catch people all the time. They'll say homosexuals were around, have always been around. I say, so what year are we talking about? Give me a time frame.
Nice.
Give me a century.
Sure.
Give me, are we talking about 1st century or are we talking about 6th century BC?
Sure.
And then I'll tell them what is known about what same-sex behavior is seen as then, the roles of men and women, even what we know about procreation.
Sure.
And there are pockets of time where it doesn't change for 500 years. But then as we start getting closer to the 1700s, those pockets of time, changes are going to happen in 50 years, and then 40 years, and then 20 years. And then when you start to get into the 1960s, you have to look at 5-year chunks. And I don't think people had that appreciation of how assumptions change over time. And you can't possibly talk about a word like homosexual unless you understand the time frame you're talking in and what the assumptions are attached to that word at that time as to why decisions around it were made, which is why. So this book is different. So do you want to catch up, and then I'll just go into this book, because this is a different book.
Yeah, absolutely. You absolutely, you carry on.
So what happened is I would teach for years, I started teaching along a timeline. It has to be in 2010. And so I would teach along a timeline.
And just so everybody knows, Kathy, I've put in the links in the comments there, some of your YouTube videos on some of these teachings with the timeline. So please, people, grab hold of those links so you can go and watch. Please go ahead.
Because quite a few people.
And there's nothing with the contemporary stuff, because I've been so careful to protect this information.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because I know this book is really going to be controversial amongst the non-affirming church. And I didn't want people to make, again, assumptions about what I was doing without understanding my context.
Yes.
So I haven't allowed, everywhere I've spoken, people have wanted to film me so that the congregants that weren't there, etc., could watch the film, and I haven't allowed it because I haven't wanted the information, pieces of it to get out, because we know how people operate. They'll say, so if they hear 5 minutes on Leviticus, then suddenly I know nothing about Romans 1, right? I've never read Romans 1. And if I talk about Romans 1, I've never read Genesis, right? I mean,
it's so frightening.
It's the truth, right? I mean, so in the last few weeks when people have been coming at me, they'll say, you should read Romans 1. And the snarky part of me, because I'm a native New Yorker, I can be very snarky, but I try not. I'm a fourth generation Manhattanite.
Wow.
So it's built in me. I mean, I'm naturally snarky, but I try to put all of that aside. But I think to myself, and they say, so I look at somebody's profile and they're, 25-year-old little boy who's, been homeschooled and, loves Jesus and his wife and his 2 kids on his profile. And he's saying to me, you should really read Romans 1. And I think, oh, what a great idea. I've written 2 books, but maybe I'll try to read Romans 1 this afternoon. It's just so condescending what they think I know and don't know.
It's frightening.
And so I would teach this, and of course, it was on a timeline, and I would get to 1946, and I would say, because I didn't know the details at the time, I would say, this translation team made this decision for the first time in 1946 to combine arsenicoitai and malachoite, first of all, into one word, which is a problem. And because it doesn't talk about the power differential, right?
And the obscurity,
Yeah, but the power differential is gone. You don't have one person in dominance. And so they combined it, and I'd say, okay, so we just talked about what is understood about homosexuality within the medical community, within the legal community, within society. And these translators are a product of their society. So what are the assumptions they brought to the table when they sat in that translation room and made this decision? Wow. And I say, okay, we just looked at those assumptions.
Sure.
We just looked at them on the timeline. So I would say these people, because I could look them up, there were enough records about them. I knew that they were born between 1870 and 1917. And so I'd say, what did these men know? What are the assumptions they held about homosexuals when they did this work? I would assume, still say 1946.
Sure.
Because I didn't understand. Now I understand quite well the structure of Bible translation and how long it takes. But
sure.
And I'd say I believe that this was ideological and cultural and not a theological decision. And then I took it the next step before I went into the archives, and I went through. I spent several months going through online evangelical newsletters, like their monthly magazines, Nazarenes, Foursquare, Assemblies, any denominational journals that I could find that were online, and I'd search for both First Corinthians, and because that's the first place where the word homosexual is introduced.
Yeah.
So I'd search for any article about First Corinthians, any part of it, or any article about homosexuality, and there were none. There were none. So that strengthened my belief that what was happening was ideological and cultural, because there was no theology. I could not find any evidence of theology about homosexual people, because when people started realizing they were attracted to the same sex, and it might have been the 30s and 40s, their pastors or priests would have told them to go see a therapist. They wouldn't have said to them, oh, here, read these verses in the Bible and you'll be healed. The Bible wasn't used that way. People were told to go to a therapist, and they were told to go to a therapist so that they could cope with their sexual feelings in society.
Yeah.
They weren't told to go really correct themselves. They weren't said, oh, it says right here, and since for some of you, the Bible wasn't used that way.
Yeah,
it just wasn't used that way.
Yeah.
And so, I really believed this was ideological and cultural. But you can say that all you want. Like, I have a very big body of knowledge that really informed me, and I was very well informed on history and context and culture and laws and lack of theology. But when you're having a conversation of this level, you have to have evidence, and I didn't know how to get evidence. And that's when Ed Oxford came along, and Ed was he was in 2 of my seminars, and he was in the second one. And I noticed at lunchtime that emotionally he was not doing well. He was struggling.
Yeah.
And I talked to him at lunchtime, and I said, you seem to be very touched by this. And he said, why have I never heard this before? He said, he went to Talbot Seminary in Southern California, and he had been a missionary to Japan out of an American Baptist church, I think.
Sure.
And he said, I've never heard this before. And how did I get to seminary and never hear this? So he decided, he's a financial advisor with more money than I have. And then he decided to go collect Bibles and commentaries. And then the next time I was down there, he said, since the last time I've heard you, I've amassed this, and it's a wonderful, very impressive, very expensive collection of Bibles and commentaries. And because he just wanted like the proof that it wasn't there. And then he just gets carried away, as someone does when they start to collect old books. And so he invited me to his house the next time I was down there. And when I saw what he had done, I first of all couldn't believe that somebody invested this level of money to collect old Bibles. And then so he was on my radar. And the next thing he did was he wondered. So I knew all the members of the team, and the head of the team was a man named Luther A. Weigel. He was the dean at Yale Divinity. But Luther, since then, I have a much broader understanding of him because I've been to his archives. But what I knew at the time, he was born in 1917.
Sure, and you can't even fathom that.
So, right? But the main guy that, I prove it as best I can in the book, in this new book, the person I believe brought the word homosexuals to the table as a translation choice was Dr. James Moffat, who was a Scottish theologian who had been in the UK for the most part of his life and came over to the United States when he got a chair at Union Theological in New York. He came over in 28 or 29. And that's when they were putting together the translation team. So Moffat was the oldest person.
Sure.
But Moffat had also written the Moffat Bible. And I think the Moffat Bible is 1913. And so what he did after that, though, was Moffat wrote commentaries on all of the New Testament books. And his commentary on 1 Corinthians, which I didn't know at the time either. And all of this is in the book. You have to be like a detective. Yeah. So if this is the way your brain works anyway, right? Yeah. If your brain says there are more pieces that work into this, like my mother thought I was such a pain in the butt child because I was curious. Yeah. I was just curious. And I asked all kinds of questions. And my mother was a woman that only read 2 books in her life. I mean, in her adult years. She read Dr. Zhivago in 1957.
Who didn't?
I saw the movie.
And she read my book, my first book.
Oh, wow.
And so my mother was not well read. So that's who raised me. And when I would start asking questions about all kinds of things, not only was she like totally intrigued by this curious child, she was not. She tried to shut it down.
Yeah.
She would say, why do you ask so many questions? Why do you bother people? Why are you always asking people questions? But it never went away. I mean, it just never went away. And so
thank the Lord for that, Kathy.
Yes,
thank the Lord.
Right?
I mean,
right, but you've got to know that was put in me.
Yeah,
that was put in me.
Yeah.
And so
that was your gift.
I just naturally say, well, where did that come from? And where did that come from? And I try to take things back to the root. And so you see that in this book, which is why I start in 3200 BC. But so Ed found that Luther Weigel, the head of the translation team, his archives were kept at Yale University's Sterling Memorial Library, and which side note, I think I do this as a footnote in the book. I was going to do more, but my editor said, you keep going down rabbit hole tracks. And I think, yes, I do, because I'm curious and I want to know everything. And so Sterling, the guy, John Sterling, who funded that library, who funded the divinity school at Yale, who funded the law school and a couple of other things, was a gay man.
My word.
And you only know that by digging into his history. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm at Sterling Memorial Library. I wonder who Sterling is, right? I mean, it's just a natural question for me. And so then I go and I spend, a couple of days digging around about John Sterling. And then I find out that he was never married and had this bachelor's life with this other person. They were very wealthy. They lived in New York. Sterling was an attorney for some of the big tycoons at the time, like Rockefeller, all the money magnates of the time, and his partner was the head of the New York Cotton Exchange. Sure. And they lived together in this beautiful mansion in New York, and Sterling made he adopted, which was kind of common at the time, to adopt your perhaps younger lover, so that when you died, your assets went to them. And it was pretty darn common.
Yeah.
It was pretty common. And so the younger one was made the executor of John Sterling's will, and he was commanded to burn all his papers after his death, which he did, but he died 6 months later too. But in his will, all of this money was given to Yale University to, as I said, build the Divinity School, the Yale Memorial Library, the Sterling Memorial Library, which is like a castle, the law school.
Sure.
And in his papers, all he asked for was to build, this is how simple he made it, build a beautiful building. And so if Sterling had had children, that money would not have gone to Yale. And at the time, in that time period, it was the biggest private donation to any academic institution of the decades. And it was made by a gay man.
Wow.
So
I had no
that's
clue.
a side story.
No, it was an interesting side story. People are finding this fascinating.
But history is filled of those things.
People are so...
It's filled with those things. And you just like, gay people are everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, look, I'm looking at the screen and the majority is gay people.
Yeah, indeed.
And so
people are loving this,
we
Kathy.
went
There's some comments over there.
So Ed found out that Dr. Weigel's papers, because he had been the dean, he was very important, were kept at Yale Memorial Library, the Weigel archives. And so what Ed was curious about was there any relative after Weigel that Weigel said, oh man, I blew it. I mean, look at the outcome, because he didn't die until 76. But did he say in his later years, I blew it? So that was Ed's first question. Is there any evidence that he admitted his error? And then when we started looking at the list online of what was available in the archives, we didn't know there were microfilms. We only thought there were 94 what are called bankers boxes of stuff.
And this is all at Yale.
So we planned all at Yale, all stored at Yale. And so we went back in October of 2017. I happened to be back there for something, and Ed flew out, and he took a young man from his office that was an office assistant and brought Fauna with him so that Ed and I could keep working. And if we needed something to be photographed, Ed brought a document camera so that Fauna had his separate jobs, like take a picture of this, because we only had 5 days. And we thought at the time that we had just 94 boxes of stuff to go through. But when we got there, we found out that there were also 22 rolls of microfilm. And we're all of the age that I think we are, that we remember microfilms.
Sure.
Like that's how you researched in high school and college. And so 22 rolls of microfilm. So somewhere around 100 to 130,000 documents. We don't know.
1,000.
But we found nothing in the boxes. So by the third day, I had found like lists. There were lists of like, we didn't get this right. When we do a revision, should it be merrily, verily, truly? I mean, there were kind of simple things, but none of those, any of those renditions of those lists, there was nothing, the word homosexual never showed up. It just, in 3 days of research, it never showed up. So I really thought what I would find is I thought we would find notes, like the secretary taking notes at their meetings and saying, oh, today we're going to be discussing, 1 Corinthians. This is what I thought. This is completely what I thought we would find. So today we're going to discuss 1 Corinthians, and Moffat says, oh, those dirty, filthy homosexuals, right? I mean, This is what I expected. I expected to find notes contemporary to the decision of why they did it. And when we didn't find it, I was pretty despondent and thinking we're never going to find it. And then somehow I think one of the archivists said to us, I think on that third day, the library closed at 4:45. So you could go from 10 till 5 and very strict rules. And one of the archivists said, there's microfilms downstairs and the microfilm room is open till 10. So we started after the library closed going down to the microfilm room. And it was that very first night in the microfilm room. Ed was on one machine, 2 machines away, and you see it in the movie. Those are actual footage from what happened because we brought Fauna with us, right? So he could film. And so as I was going through the microfilms, and you go at just like a zip, zip, zip pace, right? Because you're trying to see what's on the pages. And I saw in the top paragraph the word homosexual, and I saw 1 Corinthians, and I thought, this is the first time in 3 days I've seen this verse quoted and the word homosexual in all of these archives. So I stopped what I was doing and I called to Ed and I said, I think I found something, without pursuing it, without reading further, and asked Fauna to come over, and he took Ed's iPhone and his iPhone and just started filming. So what you see is what really happened. And I start reading the letter, and I realized right away that this is a single-spaced, thoughtful letter. And if somebody had shown me that letter that day, as if it were a new letter, I would say, whoever wrote this letter is asking really good questions. Yeah. It was that advanced. And it was, you could just tell it was a person that was really thinking about things. But because I know so much history, I knew that it could not be a straight person asking these questions, because a straight person never would have had the sensibilities or the reflection that some of these statements showed. And so I say right in the film, this is a guy, he's got to be a gay therapist, because the level was high and the questions were thoughtful. Nice. And so we got to the end of the first letter, and of course they were signed David Sheldon, and they were from a P.O. box in Ontario, Canada. And then the next question, the next piece of paper was Dr. Weigel's response, and it was another 3-page response. And in that response, he explained, he said, somebody asked me this, and somebody made a statement in 1952, and we found that postcard too. It was another Canadian who had said, there's a person in my congregation who has homosexuality in the family, and they're wondering why our Sena Koitai is translated homosexual here and not in First Timothy. So all Weigel said is, in 1 Corinthians, I combined our Sena Koitai and Malakoi and made it homosexuals and made it sodomites there. And it was a very simple answer. It was a 3-sentence answer. And so he says, but you know what? Since you have written such a complete letter and you've put so much work into this letter, I'm going to tell you why I did this.
Wow. Sure.
And right there it was laid out. It was laid out how they made the decision. And so I didn't think about that right then. I didn't think about the implications of that and what I would find in that letter, because you can't research that quickly. But what I was delighted at was he recognized it. And then then he says at the end of that letter, you're right, it shouldn't be homosexuals.
Wow.
Because David is saying, there are people, because this is when he says in the first letter, if you leave this, the Bible is going to be used as a sacred weapon against a defenseless group of people that are already marginalized. Some of which he says, I know myself. He doesn't tell you he's gay. He doesn't tell you at all he's gay. Because he couldn't have. He couldn't have. He couldn't have. He was, when, we track him down, the third letter says, I'm just a seminary student. Yeah, just a seminary student. He's 21 years old. But he doesn't say he's gay, and he can't say it because if somebody if Weigel went back to his seminary, to McGill University, and said, you've got a gay man in the streams there,
he would have been taken
he probably
out.
would have been kicked out. And so he never says he's gay. And Weigel says, would it be better if I said those who are participating in homosexual practices? And David writes back in the third letter and says, no, these are not homosexual practices.
Yeah.
This is lingo of the day. These are homosexual vices. This is rape.
Sure.
This is rape.
Yeah.
This is like a man, a coach with a boy, a priest with an altar boy, an uncle with a younger person.
Power thing.
These are situations of power.
Yeah.
And these are not just homosexual practices. This is a vice. But if I had let that, so I've been kept that letter so close to my chest, because even if I let that letter out without contextual explanation of what these words meant in the 50s, somebody in the 2025s would say, of course they know that's a vice. Vice had a different understanding. It had a different understanding. It wasn't like vice on the vice list. This is why I'm always so concentrated on time periods.
Because words change meaning over time.
Words change. It's all about assumptions. What assumptions are attached to that word? So then he comes back and he says homosexual vices. So Weigel says, okay, the next time the group gets together, we will look at these words. But so end of trip, I come home, and of course I want to know, did I find everything I possibly could? So Ed and I were very clever before we left Yale University. We went out and we went to a bakery and we got cookies, and I had brought a box of thank you notes, and we gave every archivist and librarian that helped us, we gave them personal thank you notes with a cookie. And so of course they remembered us. And
paying it forward, Kathy.
And, always be kind.
Yeah.
It's just a good rule of thumb, right? Just
I love
be kind.
that.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, I wonder if I caught everything, because, we found that, and then we didn't find anything else, but I wonder what else was in there in these 22 roles that we may have missed. So I went to my library. I live near the University of Nevada, Reno, here in Nevada. And they're about 25 minutes north of me. And I went to the interlibrary loan department there, and I said, there are these rolls of microfilms that I want at Yale University, and could you call for them? I can't call for them.
Okay.
A person can't call for them. A librarian has to call for them. So Jenny, the librarian, in charge of international interlibrary loans up at the university, wrote, and I said that I wanted roll 12, which was where everything was. And I believed that and I had to pay $20, and I was fine with that, but I believed that I was going to get just roll 12. And what they did was they sent me all 22 rolls of film.
Oh, wow.
And you can have them for 2 months at a time, unless somebody asks for them. If somebody asks for them, they have to go back to the Library of Origin. I mean, these are all details, but they matter.
Absolutely.
They really matter, because the films would have gone back to the Library of Origin, and then I would have had to ask them for them again. But if nobody was asking for them, Jenny, the librarian, in her power, could say, Kathy wants them for 2 more months. Can we have them? And she extended them at one point for 8 months.
Wow.
And then I thought I was done. And then they went back. And then I found something else in a little book. I don't know if it's sitting here, but the book is just so tiny and little. Is it? Oh, darn, I should have taken it out. I just cleaned up my library. My son just redone my office, and I scoured my books. But there's a book. So by then I was curious about Weigel. So I ordered this book on eBay. I think I found it. And it was 99 cents, $3.99 shipping. And it was a book of essays about Dr. Weigel. And the reason I wanted it was I was starting to write, and I wanted to position Dr. Weigel to the readers as a thoughtful man, because I hear all the time that it was 12 homophobic men sitting in a room making, gay people were coming out in the national coming out story of the Second World War, people were coming out. And so people make this assumption that, which I would have made too, that they all start coming out in 44 and 45. And it's a big problem for the country, because we've got all these homosexuals hanging out all over the place. So these men sitting in a room look at this word and say, step back, homosexuals. But when you go through the archives, and this is the other thing we found out, nobody had ever gone through the box and microfilm archives ever.
My goodness.
They'd gone through boxes, like when it was Weigel's anniversary and they needed pictures for a tribute to him, but nobody had gone through the entire set. And you can tell because you can see who takes documents out of libraries, right? Libraries, archives keep really good records.
Kathy,
and
I don't want to sidetrack you, but
yeah.
Isn't it frightening that no one asks the question? We just consume the information. We don't question the information, right?
So somebody, in my opinion, somebody should have done this work in the 1980s on either side of this. Somebody, when they started turning the Bible against the LGBTQ community, somebody on either side of this should have said very, very simple question. What assumptions did they hold when they made this decision? It is a simple question.
Yes.
It's simple.
In any theologian and doing any kind of, whether it's Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, especially in the Greek and in this text, I mean, surely those are normal things that you would do in your research. But the homophobia,
you should,
the tainted lenses.
But when you find out, like when you read the book, and I think my chapter, when the first person asked this question, his name is Heinrich Kahn, and he produces his book in 1844, Psychopathia Sexualis, where he says, there are people that are doing sex differently. There are people that are doing sex. There are people that are doing sex outside the boundaries of man, woman, procreative sex. And they're doing these other kinds of sex. And he says, why are people doing these other kinds of sex? And he is the first person in 1844 that asks that question. So you have to go to even his book and say, same thing. What are the assumptions he comes to the table with?
Sure.
And to me now, these are very standard, should be asked questions. Yeah. So they did this in the scientific revolution. Like when they start finding the classics and they look at Ptolemy's old records and they say, when Ptolemy said this about the universe, what were his assumptions?
Yeah.
So after all these books find the classics finally coming from Asia back into Europe in the 12 and 1300s, where they haven't seen them for 1,000 years because they've been banned as pagan material. Well, not so much banned, but not preserved.
Sure.
So they come back in with the Turks. They come back in through Spain. And so academics are looking at these and they're saying, our entire view of the solar system is based on Ptolemy from the 3rd century BC. And his assumptions, surprising, were wrong. And now we've got instruments.
The Earth is flat.
So they start. So scientific revolution changes because now people they haven't been able to look at bodies, and now they're starting to, in the 14th century, dissect bodies again. And they're realizing all of these things are about assumptions. So we should be using the same tools with the Bible.
Yes.
And so Heinrich Kahn asks questions about sexuality. So I believe, even on the other side, somebody should have asked this question. But we did. We did.
Thank the Lord for that.
And the funny thing is, so here I am with an engineering background, never taken a writing class in my life. In engineering, you didn't have to. They just assumed we spoke in numbers. And but I always took a reading class. I would go to a different campus and take a reading class at the women's college because I like to read. I've always liked to read. Roberta's Painful Child.
Inquiring mind, an inquiring mind. Thank the Lord for that.
Poor Roberta, poor my mother. She would say all the time, "Where did you come from?" And so, and here's another side, just another side. Since I'm speaking at a different level, I'm doing a more personal thing. So I have a son. I have 2 children. They're both straight. I have a 39-year-old daughter that lives in Brooklyn, as like every 30-year-old wants to live in Brooklyn. Well, Sam does. She lives in a great spot in Brooklyn. And then my son is 40, and he lives right outside of Lake Tahoe at the base of a ski mountain where he wants to live. And so I could see when my son was 5, and I have a wonderful picture of him right over there because he's doing all the renovation in my house. He's brilliant. He's a very smart boy, but he's very good with his hands. So this is this is how he follows his passion. But when I homeschooled these children, there was something about Andrew when I would teach him Bible and history and science. Sammy would chatter the whole time. Sam's like me, the girl. But Andrew would take it all in, and then after listening to what I had to say, he would spit out this new idea. Like he would take all these pieces and put them together and come out with an original thought, a concept. And I kept thinking, where does this child get this talent?
Payback.
Isn't that crazy? So I would be fascinated at my own child for years and thinking, this is a smart little boy. And then I started seeing like, oh, wait a minute, this is exactly what I do. And I couldn't see it in myself.
Oh, man.
I could see it in my child. So I knew I had a talent to put things together, and I could only see it because I could see it in someone else.
Wow.
And so when I started to think about it all and to challenge these things, I had enough history. I was understanding science. I understood politics. I was starting to understand the military laws around all of this. And then I could understand how they all interacted together. And then the next question would be, and then when going through the archives, I could see that the work on 1 Corinthians was done in 1937. So it's not 1946.
Wow.
1946, as I said, is a national coming out experience for Americans.
Sure.
And so people would say, you know, that was the translation team's reaction. But they did the work in 1937. So then we have to go back even further. What did people know about homosexuality in 1937? And they knew almost nothing. And the reason they knew almost nothing was, although in Germany, these are big answers. These are big, this is not a simple subject, which is why there's a 564-page book. And so it starts in Germany. When Heinrich Kahn in Austria asked this question, sexology starts like in the 1850s in Germany. Two activists, as Germany is becoming unified, and there's very conservative Prussia up here and very liberal, progressive Bavaria, but they're unifying into a country that needs one legal system, one set of laws.
Yes.
And they need sodomy laws to make sense, right? So they've got conservative sodomy laws and progressive sodomy laws, but they've got to be the same. So we've got people that know by now that they are attracted to the same sex. It starts happening in the 1850s, 60s. They're hiding, but they know that this is who they are. And so anonymously, two different people begin writing letters to the German parliament to say, you know, this is who we are. We think we're born this way. And so the German parliament has to deal with this. And so they investigated, and that is a fascinating chapter because their experts make the decision that people are born this way, but something happens in the cultural context in terms of a very high profile rape case of a little boy.
Sure.
And they attribute it to these people.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't accurate at all. But what they know then gets changed by public opinion, and sodomy laws come back in. And then those get challenged after the First World War because Germany is destroyed, and Germany decides part of their destruction and part of their future growth is we're going to take all forms of censorship out of our society and let people expand and think.
Wow.
So some of the censorship they expand is in pictures and thought and art. And this is when the very first academic institution, the Sex Institute of Berlin, I mean, see how complex this is?
It's hectic.
Is established in 1919 by a guy named Magnus Hirschfeld. And by the time it's destroyed, he collects over 10,000 intake forms with 130 questions each from people that do sex differently. So we're talking about not just homosexuals, which we've got the word now, but women that like sex, people that want to cross-dress, people that want abortions.
Kathy, were these
people that do things differently?
Were these surveys done or just interviews? Or, okay.
They were interviews.
Surveys.
They were interviews.
Okay,
sure.
Got you.
They were actual. So these documents existed.
Yeah. Okay.
And people in Germany knew that sexology is now starting.
Yes, and there's a freedom
so
to speak and to explore.
The 10s, the 20s, the 30s.
Got you.
So they're the ones that are talking about it. But at the same time, England and the United States have unbelievably high censorship laws. Yeah. So it cannot make it out. If it makes it out of Germany, it cannot make it into England, and it cannot make it into the United States. So we're talking about the intent of Magnus Hirschfeld is to educate the medical and legal community because he knows that they hold the power.
Wow.
And the books can't make it out, okay? So the information is known. The Nazis come in and destroy it all.
Wow.
So the very famous burning you see, the book burning, is the Sex Institute.
Wow.
That's what you see being burned.
Didn't know that.
All of that documentation out of the Sex Institute is burned. And so whatever is known is gone. Whatever was known does not make it to the United States and Canada and England. And this is the 1930s, right when the translation team is sitting down to do their work.
Wow.
So they have no scientific understanding. They have no medical understanding of who homosexuals are. So all they can do is look to their culture, and their culture says this behavior, because there's sex panics happening in the United States, this behavior is these people called homosexuals that are doing this criminal behavior. We don't even know why they do it yet. We still don't understand that. We don't know, is it a body defect? Like, is there some kind of defect in their body that causes them to be this way? Is it a brain defect?
Yes.
Have they been, our words today, groomed into it?
Sure.
Is it just falling off the moral wagon? Is it just a permanent, illegality? They have no idea when they make their decision what causes homosexuality, what homosexuality even is. So if you try to take your definition of homosexuality today and give that same definition to the translation team, you would be wrong. You would be completely wrong.
Yeah, because the premise is wrong, right? The premise is wrong. There's no foundation. There's no validation.
So this is something that I say it at least 4 times in the book because people have to understand this.
Yeah.
The first book, and it's on the shelf. I should have had these all out. I didn't know with it. I never know where conversations are going. The first accessible academic book on Greco-Roman sexual ethics. Want to take a guess what year that would have been available to people that doing research? 1978.
Wow.
No way.
Kenneth J. Dover, Greco-Roman sexual ethics. And when I was writing my book, and I wrote that, I said, I'm looking up at my shelf right now, and there are at least 3 to 4 dozen books on sexual ethics, Greco-Roman sexual ethics, that tell you that these are abusive, dominant, enslaved people, prostituted boy relationships. But the translation team wouldn't have known that.
My goodness.
First of all of that information that would have been coming out into the science and legal field destroyed, or not allowed to get in, and the academics weren't done.
Kathy?
And the way I can prove that, again, more layers.
Yeah.
You just got to ask the next question.
Yeah.
So what did Moffat know when he wrote his book in 13? What did he know when he wrote his commentary book in 1937? Because I'm convinced he's the one that brought it to the table.
Wow.
And so when you go to Moffat's book in 1937, of course, which I had a copy of, because I buy all the odd things. And
what a surprise!
Yeah.
What a surprise!
Look what I found.
So, and I have to go back to my 99-cent book at one point, but I'll go back to remind me about my 99-cent book. But Moffat's commentary on 1 Corinthians, it runs like any commentary book, and your watchers, your listeners can find it. I love the site Internet Archives. You can find a copy of it on there. So if you go to that and you read the introduction, because all commentaries work the same way. Where in Rome? What did Paul know about Rome? What was going on in Rome? Commentaries are all the same. So we have to just go to Moffat's commentary on Corinthians, and his first, 30, 40 pages talk about the social setting of 1 Corinthians. And it is so clear when you read his assessment of the Corinthians culture that he had no idea that there was this exploitative sexual abuse of other people. Like Paul's contemporaries were convinced that arsenokoitai, because his contemporaries changed the word from arsenokoitai in their commentaries to pedothoresis, which means corrupters of boys.
Sure.
So it is so clear that it was about sexual abuse of a lesser than person, whether it be enslaved, prostituted, foreign boy, captured enemy.
The power thing.
There's absolutely, mostly an age difference, but absolutely a power differential, and the person that was being penetrated had zero ability to consent or reject.
Sure.
Yes.
Zero ability.
Sure.
So it is so clear that that's what it's about. But Moffat didn't know that. It would be like in your society before apartheid, or our society still, it would be like he saw, like we have in towns like mine, where it's a very casino town, or people are building. It's the Hispanic community that is building. Like it was the Black community before. It's the Hispanic community that is building our town and supporting the industries in our town. And it would be like the white person and the Hispanic construction worker.
Master slave, right?
He would, but it wasn't master slave, right? Because the Hispanic construction worker can say no.
Okay, there's choice. Okay.
Right? So it would have been a social differential.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
But the lower class person then had no ability to not consent. They had no idea this was this toleration in society of sexual, we would call it abuse.
Depravity.
They would not have seen it as abuse.
They just saw it as a norm.
It was tolerated. And so when you go to Moffat's book, you can see, again, his assumptions.
Do you think...
So when he sees this homosexual, he calls it homosexual love, he's not seeing abuse.
Homosexual love.
And the books that show abuse will come out for another 30 to 40 years.
There it is.
So you can understand how this happens.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So
that's
Kathy,
a revelation.
Absolutely. Do you think it's assumptions or
I
also
so
preference?
Like that you like this, because this is good.
No, absolutely.
We're going to have you back for part 2.
Yeah, please.
If you'll come back.
Yeah. We would love for you to come back.
There's so much.
Kathy, because I think there's so many.
Because there's a follow-up to it, but the thing is that the question is to say, so people will say, the common things are, Paul knew about homosexuals. No, he didn't. And then they'll quote all of these stories from the ancient world. But when people quote those stories from the ancient world, even in that, they're making a mistake, because they're quoting Greek stories. Greek sexual ethics are completely different than Roman sexual ethics.
Sure.
In the Greek sexual ethics, the Greeks men were allowed to mentor citizen boys. So they had sex, they penetrated citizen boys. And when the Romans come along in 70 AD, they say, oh, those filthy, dirty Greeks, they were penetrating boys, citizen boys. Well, the Romans will penetrate anything but they're citizen boys, right? And so even the ethics change. So when people are reading these ancient Greek stories and saying, oh, look at these, mutual relationships. First of all, there's a power differential, but they're both citizens, but that was permitted in that society. But when Paul is writing, it's a new society. Yeah. It's a different set of sexual ethics. So you always have to know where you are. And the reason people get away with their unbelievably sloppy theology is because they're not giving you proper context. And they're not understanding, like in Leviticus, that's a different set of circumstances.
It's a cultural, linguistic, historical.
And all these pieces. And as you get into modern times, then you start getting the legal system, which is going to start taking sodomy laws, which for 1,500 years have been about non-procreative sex, and they're going to start in the 1700s looking at just male-male sex. And heterosexuals are going to get a pass. They're going to all be allowed to do non-procreative sex. And then starting in like the 1950s, when the women's revolution comes, the sexual ethics are going to change again. And all of those laws that have been used against heterosexuals even completely become about male-male sex. Totally.
Unbelievable.
So we let heterosexuals move from first century sexual ethics to what works in society today. We take homosexuals and take their sexual ethics and put it back in a time where it wasn't even about them.
Yeah, I love that. Astounding, right?
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Kathy, people are so loving this.
You can understand why they made this translation choice. Zero malice, bad assumptions, no academics.
Yeah.
So when people start using these verses, as I said, somebody should have checked the assumptions. And anyone, in my mind, after 1980 that does translation work should have challenged these verses. But what the the New American Standard Bible, the Living Bible, the NIV, and all of those base their work, Greek, Hebrew, but also the RSV, settled issue in the RSV. And do not let me forget that 99-cent book, because that's the next sentence. But they are reacting to two things: what the Revised Standard Version has done in excellent academics, but they're also, like the NIV, they put that team together to start with in 1956. It doesn't come out until 73 New Testament, 78 New and Old. So even they do not have access to good Greco-Roman academics. I can give them a pass. I can give the NASB, and I do, I think, a great chapter on translations after the RSV, like who is culpable, who is not.
Yes, I love that.
So the first set, so the first set of translations, those people had no information. But when they start doing revisions, and when the English Standard Version, which is such a popular Bible, does their work that doesn't publish until 2001, they knew. They had access to academics on Greco-Roman sexual relationships. And not only did they not correct, they doubled down. And there's a reason they doubled down, and it comes down to money.
Sure.
It comes down to market share. So back to the 99-cent book.
Yes.
So in this 99-cent book, the reason I got this was I wanted to write a favorable story. No, I wanted to write a human story about Luther Weigel. And I had read on one of his either grandchildren's or great-grandchildren's blog, just happened to be mentioning his grandfather, great-grandfather. And the way that Luther Weigel met his wife, Ruth, was at 28, he was a professor at a school in Minnesota. And he was quite taken by this young woman who had her family, after kind of in the Depression, didn't have the money to send her to an East Coast school, so they brought her back to Minnesota, and she finished school there. And the dean of that school thought, oh man, she's adorable, but I can't date her until she graduates. So she graduates, and he wants to take her to the winter ball. And he takes her, they're walking down in Minnesota, with what people in Minnesota say, there's two seasons in Minnesota, good sledding and bad sledding. That's what they say about Minnesota. And so they're walking down a wooden platform over the snow and the mud, going to this winter dance, and he mistakenly steps on her boa, and he trips her, and she falls, gets her silk gown and her boa a mess, and she still marries him. And I wanted to put that in there as kind of like a comic relief, as like, this is a very human man. And so I thought, I want that book that has that the grandchild got the story out of. So I ordered this 99-cent book so that I could cite the book and not the blog that cites the book. And so I get this book for 99 cents and $3.99 shipping. And because I'm a reader, I can't see just reading one chapter. I think, oh, I've got a whole 99-cent book here. And so I read it, and some of the chapters are written by his son. It's written in 1976, and it's a tribute to the dad, to Weigel. But one of the chapters was written by the numbers guy from Thomas Nelson, that was the publisher. And he was just a numbers guy that wanted to just recount, like, how many meetings did they have, and how much money did they make, and when did we have to fund this thing, and when did we do corrections? And that's where I found it.
Sure.
And so I was reading it, and I read in there that between, I may get the dates wrong, but June 9th to the 16th in 1959, the team, this is what it said in the book, the team got together to discuss 300 reasonable criticisms and objections to the RSV, to the 1959 RSV. And so they took these 300 criticisms to heart, and they were going to do a small revision, like -r. And so they sent all the paperwork out to the team. And now some of this I found out from the archives, because now I've got information. Now so I call for the tapes, the films to come back to me, and I go through all the contracts. So this is how I find this out.
Sure.
I verify with contracts.
They must have taken you a long time.
I know those. Yeah, nobody knows the RSV archives better than I do. And so I get them to come back, and so I see in there, so I verify the story that this publisher had written, the numbers guy in the publishing. So he says that, and I verify it, that the translation team in April and May were given all of the paperwork that said, okay, when we get together in June, we're going to discuss these 300 objections. And I have the list from the archives of the 300 objections. And guess what's not on there? 1 Corinthians and homosexual. It's not on there because no one objected to it.
My goodness.
And so
he
says, so this is 1959. And so they get together, and the numbers guy says, so they got together between the 9th and the 16th of 1959, and they went through these objections, and they made an agreement with the publisher that after they went through these objections, the book had been out 7 years, that they wouldn't make any more corrections for 10 years.
Wow.
So they have this meeting. They do the work in September. And on October 1st, 1959, they come to an agreement that they will make no more changes for 10 years. David's letter was written October 22nd, 1959.
My word.
And I had wondered, I knew somebody was going to ask the question eventually, and I didn't know how I was going to answer until I found the evidence. Mm-hmm. So if Weigel knew he made a mistake in 1959, why didn't he change it right then? Under contract, he could not.
Oh, wow.
And you can see
For
the
10
very
years?
first time they have to wait 10 years.
Wow.
And so that's why in 1971, in the revised vision of it, it says sexual perverts, because by then Weigel's got his letter, David's letter, but it's 1969.
Oh,
It's crazy, eh?
People are coming out.
Yes. Yeah.
Stonewall has happened.
Yes.
We are that much more aware of what homosexuals are. And so he has the choice, those who practice homosexuality or those who participate in homosexual vices. And he says, it's not about homosexuals at all. It's about people that pervert sex. And he changes it to sexual perverts, but none of the other translations know this is going to happen.
Sure.
And they double down. And that's the story.
Oh, Kathy, we're going to have to get you back.
Oh,
There's
my
so much
word.
more.
Kathy,
I'll come back.
Yeah.
Kathy,
thank
you know-
There's so much more to say.
Yeah.
Kathy, you know, if
Can you see how excited I get about this?
you.
we're
We
getting
got
so
to.
excited. I mean, most of our viewers
It's
have
good,
continued.
But does this make sense?
No,
to you?
totally.
I mean, it's
You know what's so
how it's
awesome?
happened.
No, what's so awesome is to have someone, you know, it's not first, second hand, third hand. It's someone that was there, that
Yeah.
got the info.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how stirring this is for
Yeah.
the majority of people. I see the comments and people are saying, please can we do a part 2? Please can we come back?
Yeah, people are asking
People
for
are
it.
asking for you to come back.
I mean, we don't even mind if you put if we have to put you on and you want to put your whole thingy there or whatever it is, will do it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, Kathy, wherever we can, you know, we'll support you with whatever we can. But I just
But the story, it's I'm telling you, and I know it. I think it's on. I think you've got it. You can get it. I think I checked beforehand. It's available for you down there.
Yeah.
And if not, go to my website and there's ebooks. There's
We've
everything.
provided the
But-
lists and everything.
Yeah, we've
the
given
links.
we've given
But I'm
the links.
telling you this: a lot of people want to do the audio. I think this book is too much for audio.
Yes, okay.
It's a book that you need to be able to highlight.
Yes.
You need to
Study.
You have to. This is a book that you're going to be highlighting because this book is so full of information.
Oh,
and then when I start putting it all together, you can see. So we can do part 2 on the next side.
Oh,
but
thank
what you
you.
can see in these letters where I sat for 3 weeks and I analyzed Weigel's assumptions, and I knew, and I looked at David's context and assumptions, and the chapter I wrote on the letters, like I decided not to put the letters online because if I put the letters online, we face the same problem with the people on the other side reading it through their own
Yes,
lens,
that's
right?
it.
That's it.
That's it.
So I refuse to, I mean, they can still get the book and read it through their own lens, but then again, they're culpable because every letter I analyze, and I analyze it in context of time.
Wow.
And it is so clear that those 2 men, David knew more because he was gay.
Yeah.
Weigel was limited by what he knew.
Yeah.
And so you can only look at those letters and the limitations that the language wasn't there yet to say sexual orientation,
To express it. Yeah.
persistent romantic attractions, or it is still 1959.
Sure.
Unbelievable.
And so when you read it through his lens, you can understand why he gets that it's not about these homosexuals that are starting to come out of the closet, because now, okay, it's 1959, it is 22 years after they made the original decision. And as I said, when you start to get further along in time, you cannot go 5 years and hold the same assumptions. You cannot do it. You cannot do it.
Sure, you know.
So you have to know where you are in time.
Yeah.
And I still believe, unfortunately, that they did a decent translation for what they knew
at the time,
which is very sad to hear. But that's why I say anything after 1980, they had a higher academic calling to check their work. And they didn't check their
More
work.
is asked of them, absolutely.
And Kathy, if you look at all in all, I know you've shared a bit about this in the. How long did all of this research take you? From I mean, you are giving us the benefit of in literally whatever it is, an hour and a half, and we haven't even probably scratched half the surface. you're giving us information in 3-4 sentences, that those 3 or 4 sentences of accumulation have taken years and years and years, decades of study, right?
So if I write something in a book, 3 pages, I've probably read 6 books.
Sure.
And watched documentaries. And so start to finish 7 years, but caveat, but as pastors, you will understand this, is that in the midst of this, I'm very attached to my mother Buttercup. And,
Buttercup, it's so sweet.
And it is. She's a very sweet thing. She died 3 years ago this August. And so when she died, I foolishly believed, because she didn't live with me. She lived in Arizona, 15 hours drive each way. But I took care of everything for her, everything. I spoke to her 3 times a day on the phone. First call of the day, last call of the day, middle of the day. Did all her groceries online. I was just like my mother's, did all her banking. I was very attached. She was up here a lot. But during COVID, she was here a lot. I kept her for 2 to 3 months at a time because, her bingo ladies didn't believe in it. Any kind of,
Did someone say bingo?
My mother went to bingo
Love
5
it.
to 7 times.
Love it.
Yeah. She'd been going to bingo since she was 18. And so, so I had my mother up here all the time. And so when she was diagnosed with colon cancer, and when it finally started to manifest, at first she didn't want to come here. Knowing she had a year to live. And the reason she didn't want to come here is because I was working all the time. Like, she would sit in a chair in my office. And when I said, why don't you want to come live with me? This is what my mother said. She died at 91. My 90-year-old mother said to me, because you're too boring. I don't want to live with you. You're boring.
You study too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
And look how many people.
But I would, I live in a casino town. So I would take her down to the Tamarack and plop her in front of a machine, and she was happy. But when she was here, I would be like, can you put earplugs in because I'm working? And she'd say, can I just ask you a question now? Can I just talk to you now? So I'm pretty hardcore. So my mother came for her last 2 months and lived with me. And I somehow in my head thought, oh, well, I'll be able to get back to this book because I won't have my mother, I won't have to do all these things every day for my mother. As, when you've lost your mom, when you lose your mom, it is so much bigger than you ever think it's going to be.
True. Yeah.
And I crashed. But the reason this story is important is because she died in August of that year. And then a few months later, the whole Gaza thing happened. And I was in such agony over the loss of my mother that I couldn't imagine losing 10 and 20 family members. I just couldn't imagine it. And so that started this thing in my head of the value of people, like I'd never thought about it before. And then and then of course, then the next progression is the value of not just everybody, but even my enemies.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I finally, about 14, I could research. I was reading a lot, and it kind of shows up in the first 2 chapters. I was reading a lot of Jewish commentaries because it's their book, right? I mean, the Hebrew Bible's their book. How dare we evangelicals tell them what their book means?
Oh, but we do.
So I took a class at the temple on Jewish history. I mean, I got pretty serious. I do odd things.
Wow.
And so I took a history class at the temple, and I started reading Jewish commentaries, and I started doing reading on archaeology of that area of Canaan. And the whole time, this whole thing of brewing in me of the value of people. And one day I was out on a trail. It was about 14 months after Buttercup died. And something clicked in my head that I thought, oh my goodness, I think I'm ready to write again.
Wow.
Sure.
And I went back to, I thought, where the heck was I when I left off? I can't even remember where I was. It was so long ago, like blow the dirt off of these papers and get them out again. And I realized when I went back to my writing that I thought my writing style was, and very few people could spot this, but I certainly knew it, was too harsh.
Wow.
it was sort of, and this is an exaggeration, it was like, fact, got it?
Yeah.
Great. Next, fact, got it? Great. Next, fact, got it? Then you're stupid, because I'm moving on. And I realized that my style had changed because of grieving.
Interesting.
And so I went right back to the beginning and started, and this what took time was I started editing myself. And in editing myself, it softened everything, which now I'm glad about, because now it has a further reach, because that snarky little, well, I wasn't snarky, but that I'm smart. I mean, I know I'm smart, but that little smart ass kind of had a cover over her, right? And it was more of a, come with me.
Yes. Come with me on the journey.
Come with me.
Yeah, an invitation.
And I just got a letter from a Baptist minister in a red state, in a completely non-affirming church, who ordered the book for me. We had a conversation because something catastrophic happened at his church, and somebody put him in touch with me, a gay couple. We had a conversation. He knew I was writing. So when the book was ready in May, he actually ordered it from me. That's why I know he had the book. And 30 pages into it, he sent me a note and he said, like, it's a page turner.
Wow.
I got a letter from him, an email from him 2 days ago. I was hiking and I read this letter that just popped through, and I'm going to see if I can find it, because he's who I wrote the book for.
Sure.
He's who I wrote the book.
And while you're looking,
I'm not going to give you detail. I've got it. I'm not going to give you details, but he said, good morning, Kathy. I just finished your incredible book, all caps, bravo. I hope you sell 10. This is a Southern Baptist minister in a red state in a non-affirming church with no gay people. I hope you sell 10
no
million
gay people.
Copies. That he knows of, except for the choir director and
sorry, go ahead.
The singers. Yeah, the head of the ministries. So he says, I hope you sell 10 million copies that reach 10 billion hearts. Wow. Thank you 10 zillion times for your efforts. What a well-organized, thoughtful, beautiful, deep, thorough, multi-pronged, personal, and global story inspired by a true Christ follower. That's, I'm assuming, David, not me. He says, please pray for me and family. And he names a business, because this is also his livelihood that's going to get affected. And he said, I don't know exactly how to go forward for this, so please pray for me. I am every day. I will be in touch.
Wow.
And it's because he read.
I think.
And I'm convinced that anyone that reads the facts, this is why if you search, you can't find the Theo Bros objecting to me yet. And the book's been out a month. And I think the reason they can't is because they, what are they going to do? What are they going to do with facts?
Yeah, that's it.
They can't dispute
confronted with the truth.
You have the proof.
Kathy?
So they're going to come after that I'm a female, that I haven't been to seminary. And it's just like, okay, so you've been to seminary and you're a male. Did you go into the archives?
Exactly.
Did you go to the work?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Show him which way.
Yeah, obviously I can go on and on and on and on. And for you, it's probably tomorrow and the next day. And
No,
your timing for part one is excellent. And I know you wanted to ask something,
No problem. Kathy, I was going to ask you, I know that we asked you earlier if you would come back for part two. There's such a hunger and a desire from
everybody's
people
asking.
Is to say, please come back. Can we invite you back?
Yes.
Oh, great. Because I think there's some other stuff that obviously we want to unpack with you that we're not going to have the chance to do now.
It's the aftermath. Yeah. It's the aftermath that you have to see.
Lovely.
That's even interesting.
Oh,
so
wow.
what happens when people don't do the work?
Oh, lovely. I love that.
And you'll remember where our timeline is, right? Because because that is your expertise.
Thank you. Kathy, from my side, I mean, we've watched your stuff over the years. I remember that paper timeline. on. I can still see it. It's absolutely fascinating, and the simplicity of the manner in which you convey information is mind blowing. I mean, you must see the comments. They're absolutely of great value, honoring you. Just giving you kudos. I don't know if that's an American term, but just thank you from. Good. Honored, blessed to be able to engage with you in this manner and platform and forum. So many people. Thank you for the work that you've done in our community. Thank you that you persevered, for the diligence in your research. I can't wait for us to be able to have another conversation in part 2. So from my side, thank you. And Kathy, be blessed. We followed you for years, and I support you in comments wherever I can on your Facebook profile when you get those horrible comments. I don't want to open up another topic that can be part 3, how to deal with homophobics. But thank you.
We'll catch that in the next session, because we know what it is to face. It's almost, you can't even believe these are Christians. But anyway,
and it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. They troll
like
and
licensing.
But I wanted to say, Kathy, thank you so much from both Em and I, and we not only have you shared information that has taken you years and years to research, to prepare, to put together, to assimilate, to bring understanding. But it has been just a remarkable, just your heart for us, just your heart for our people, to help us to understand from a perspective that has been so sorely lacking. Everybody goes to the Bible first, and there's a natural inclination and reason for that, but that's not where it starts. You bring in all these historical, cultural, the linguistic aspects, just understanding context, which is something that is so omitted from so many modern.
So for me, it is like the Bible never did this oppression.
Yeah.
Those verses are not about you. It is completely, and that's what the book proves, it is completely what people have done with this sacred weapon to make it into a tool against you. So I had somebody complain once, it was a charismatic Pentecostal group of older gay Christians.
Absolutely, of course.
She didn't like my how I dealt with Genesis, and I talk about them as legacy stories. And so she was pretty upset with me to start with. And then she said to me at lunchtime, in kind of an aggressive manner, she said, for the past 4 hours, you haven't talked about Jesus or God or the Bible, and you're talking about all of this society and all of these other things. And I thought this was a biblical lecture.
Jesus said nothing about homosexuality. So
because this is not about the Bible. This is, by 400 years after these were written, about abusive sex. These verses were already being used about procreation, and that's not what they're about. So this is completely, that's why this history is important. This is completely what people have done with the text.
Absolutely intriguing, fascinating, mind-blowing stuff. I am so sad that we can't just whisk you over to South Africa, take you to one of our parks with a big 5, and then sit you down and just
have fireside conversations.
And then
actually, Neto is talking to me about, she wants to come over to South Africa and do a reserve. So she says, Kathy, should we do it? And I hadn't put these things together.
Tell her yes.
And now I'm thinking, wait a minute.
God has given you.
I can do this.
Well,
of course you can.
You just let us know if you want us to be involved in any part of that, and when you're planning on coming, and we'll definitely talk to you. That's
she already has it in her mind. We're gonna, in July, the trip she wanted me to go on this time is we're going up to the top of Canada to see beluga whales where they go in the summertime. 3,000 to 5,000 beluga whales are going to go.
Jealous.
Yeah,
never say never, Russell.
Well,
Kathy, I want to leave.
But her next one is she wants to go to South Africa.
Yeah,
so
no, we witness with that completely.
Well, we are praying and believing. We know the time will be right, and you will have, whether we see you or not, which we would love to, but whether we see you or not, we know you will have a blessed time here. You will. Oh, we get so excited about this. Our country is so beautiful. But Kathy, that's part 3. But what we wanted to say is thank you for your time, because I think people, time is valuable, and we honor this, and we honor you giving of yourself so that others can learn here, understand, and be free. So many of our people are still in such captivity about this. Some are just keeping their faith walk even in limbo because of this. We have allies on here tonight. We have people from our network, churches, ministers. We have an array of people from around the world that have come on live. I know live is not always the same as uploading, but we are so blessed to have you, and people have just not stopped commenting. We'll put a couple of comments up on the outro now. But we want to thank you for your time, for just the capacity to take in all of this, to spend your time. The time you spend with us is nothing. The time you train people in this is nothing compared to the time you spend researching. And we just pray for God's blessing upon you, God's favor to continue to be upon you. All these things we know are not coincidental. The connections, all the different connections you make. I love that. That's part of your website name.
Yeah.
So we thank you for being a part, for connecting with us this way, and we hope this will be the first of many. And
it'll be the first.
Amen.
Yep. Amen.
And
thank
so,
you
Kathy, thank you for your time. We bless you, and we will be in touch as well to talk about a suitable time, and we'll make sure that we've got the sound right. You remember what you did on your side, and we'll try and remember.
Thank you, Kathy, for persevering, and thank you to each and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We've still got people on
blessings.
live. A lot of our people stayed on live right through. They're all saying they can't wait for part 2. Jackie's inviting you to our conference, and people are saying, Patsy is saying, wow, Kathy, thank you so much. And Charlton says, God bless you, Kathy, opening up the truth. There's quite a few. I think M put some on. Ruin said, I was so glued to this. Thank you so much for making the time. And Jackie said, thank you for your time, Kathy. We are so honored to have had you on. Bless you and your family. And there are many more like that. And Flo said, in spirit and in truth, thank you, Kathy, for asking why, for going beneath the surface and for surface and investing the time to uproot the lie that binds so many of our people. Amen. Everyone on here has been so appreciative. People are not on here just because of curiosity. They are absolutely loving and lapping this up. We've never heard this perspective. I never had come across it until I came across some of your work. So thank you for taking this time once again, and we bless you. And all of those online, thank you for being a part of this journey with us tonight. And we just ask you to go and support Kathy. Go to her website. We've put links all over, both in the description and on the comments, for you to click on. Go and have a look at some of Kathy's work. Go and buy her book. And I know that the movie 1946 is available in South Africa. It's also on the Apple platform. It's also on Amazon. And I don't know anywhere else. You can look it up on the web and you will find it. And so we bless you all.
And I think Rocky is headed down there to South Africa.
Oh, she is?
For something.
Oh,
cool. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Oh, please, I must actually chat to you. I wanted to actually talk to you, but we didn't get a chance to about Rocky. I would love to have her on as well.
Yeah, she's headed down there with She lives in London now, and I think they got a grant to go down there, and I don't know. And she just announced it.
Oh, wow.
And I think so if you follow Rocky's page, she just announced it.
Oh, great. I would love to get in touch with her and perhaps if she's willing to have her on. So that would be amazing.
Oh, you should have her.
Oh.
Yeah, you should have her.
I would love to. I'll chat to you about that because that would be amazing.
Okay.
And we bless everybody that is online. And thank you, Kathy. You have been amazing tonight, like for real. We have learned so much, and we're going to have to go back and rewatch this. And I know if I know our people, that's exactly what they're going to do to make copious notes, those that haven't already done so.
Thank you so much.
So we bless you, and we will talk to you soon. Part 2 is coming.
So nice to meet you. You Facebook people that I actually thought I knew, but I mean, it's not possible, but...
True.
Thank you. I appreciate the two of you.
Part 2 coming.
Thank you so much.
Part 2 loading.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.